Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood. And here's your host, Robbie Winfree. Where are you? It's Robert Winfree. Yay!
Never call me Robbie again.
Robbie Dobby Doo. Where are you?
You are really testing your karmic luck right now. Just throwing it out there.
We've got a show to do now. If we can count on you, say Robbie Doo. You know you'll shit on that critic. Huh?
God. I don't know if I should give you credit for that or not.
Why start now?
Hang on. Not because you did a bad job, but just because Scooby Doo parodies are so nauseatingly ubiquitous. You know what? I'll give you a solid 3 stars, 3 out of 5 on that one.
I was hoping for 2.
2 derivative to go any higher than 3.
Okay.
See, I was just going to ask if you actually have ever gone by any other version of Robert, Robbie, Bob. The whole time I've known you, all I've ever heard you be referred to as Robert.
I believe his father referred to him as Shmagegi when they went through their Jewish phase. But then they switched to Mormonism, and he was formerly known as Robert from there on after.
That is not true.
That's the story that I'm going with. You were born Shmagegi Winfree.
I was not.
Oh.
I've pretty much always been Robert. Occasionally, people who have known me for a really long time, I'll get Rob in shorthand but not officially, just on rare occasion. I have an aunt. My nickname for a long time after I was born was Buck, because I was born the opening weekend of deer season. My dad was a pretty big hunter at the time. So I've actually got an aunt who still calls me that in no small part because she had a very apparently abusive ex named Rob. It's funny, like me and all of my brothers, we all wound up like coincidentally being named after some of her exes. So she has nicknames for all of us.
So do me a favor. You guys are going to have to continue the show without me. I now have to go through individually all my chats where your name is and change your name to Bambi in every single one of those.
Not a joke. My dad used to joke with my mom about that being my nickname if I were a girl.
Well, it's your nickname now, Bambi.
I mean, you can try, but it's a giant waste of your time.
Jesus, what isn't these days?
That is a very fair question. Anyway, joining us here, again, because of the subject material we are tackling this time, we're talking about Scoob, the latest entry into the Scooby Doo cinematic tradition, I guess. I don't know. I cannot for the life of me understand the enduring legacy and appeal of this particular property. I just can't. But it certainly is. It certainly has one, and we have an animation nut essentially on staff now at this point here in the Radulich Broadcasting Network, and Alexis Hejna is back with us. Alexis, how are things out in good old Missouri?
We actually had some blue skies for once, so I was rejoicing. But yeah, happy to be here as your animation go-to guru. And let me just say, you may not totally understand the ongoing legacy of Scooby-Doo, but can I at least get the both of you to agree with me that for the love of all that is good, holy, and drenched in chocolate, thank God this film did not contain Scrappy.
Yes. Scrappy Doo is an unholy abomination sent forth by the devil himself to torment anyone with an IQ above the single digits.
He's also my husband's favorite animated character.
Somebody had to say it.
That is. I'm pretty sure that's grounds for divorce.
You kidding me? His favorite gift that I've ever gotten him was a mug with Scrappy and the words "Let me at him" on it.
I know what he does for a living. She ain't leaving this guy. Scrappy Doo and no Dappy. Scrappy Doo, Dappy Doo, doesn't fucking matter. I got a trivia question for you, though. What was the name of, like, the Scooby... Not you, Bambi. What was the name of this... And I don't know, that's why I'm asking. Of the Scooby Doo cousin, I think it was, that wore the red hat.
The southern one? Or the overalls?
Scooby Dumb.
Was it? Kind of a gray version of Scooby with a red hat? Okay.
Yeah, that's Scooby Dumb.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's what we...
Because mocking the Southern people has long been a staple of of Hollywood culture, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I need to get you familiar with the concept of Ricochet Rabbit?
Hey, I'm just saying it's always been there, all right?
Listen.
Sometimes it's done in good fun. Sometimes it's done maliciously.
You haven't lived.
You have to take it in an individual case by case.
You haven't lived until you've had to explain to the African-American gal and the white liberal snowflake that you work with what Song of the South was, and more specifically, Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby.
I hate that there's been such a concentrated effort to remove that from discussion of or history.
Well, I'm trying to take it back, buddy.
I mean, look,
they're classic stories. This wasn't Disney being racist. The Uncle Remus folk tales are they're a staple of Americana, in my opinion. Yeah. And they were around for ages, long before Song of the South ever came out.
100%.
In fact, I need to find it. There was an animated movie that was released, oh God, it must have been 15 years ago. It was a new version of the stories of Uncle Remus. They had it was all animated, entire black voice cast, like Nick Cannon, Oprah Winfree, Tracy Morgan, really good actors, all playing the voices. And it was good. I remember seeing it on Cartoon Network. It was very well done.
Yeah,
So,
I think if you wanted to keep the individual shorts and have them, if you take issue with some of the generalized tenor of Song of the South,
you really can't. There's no way you can get away with the phrase "tar baby" now. Even the way it's used in the cartoon, where it's a literal tar. Yeah, it's a literal decoy made of tar that they're trying to get him thrown into.
It is a very literal thing in that movie,
right?
In that story, it's like
yeah. I'm sorry, I grew up blindly optimistic, and for the longest time, when I hear the word "tar baby," I just it's that segment of Song of the South. Yeah. They make sense because they make it purposely out of tar so that when Brer Rabbit attacks it out of frustration, he gets stuck in it.
Right, so they can throw him in the briar patch. And again,
it's no worse than making a glue baby.
You can stop fucking saying terrible shit about white people. You just can't. I mean, tar baby is a racial slur. It's going to be for as long as people remember that the phrase exists. There's no way you can. I mean, the continued use of Brer Rabbit and the characters in Song of the South, they get around it, but they never point directly at it anymore. I don't even know what they call it at this point.
And yet we have welcomed into an age where Tracy Morgan doing Captain Caveman is probably going to be remembered as the best part of this movie.
Not by anyone not by me. I really loathe Tracy Morgan.
Can we talk for a minute before we get it? Because the actual review of this movie is going to be like 5 minutes long. But
yeah,
I want to say to my adoring public,
all 5 of you.
Shut your face. I've seen the numbers. We have at least 20.
That is correct.
To the people who proudly listen to, or in a basement behind a door that says "Beware the Leopard," whichever, listen to the Radulich Broadcasting Network. I didn't do this one. This isn't my fault. I didn't want to review this movie. And to the point to where I would like to start a discussion, I'm not actually a huge fan of Scooby Doo. I watched it as a kid. I thought it was dumb then. I think it's still dumb now. I know
Holy
my kids.
Crap! We agree on something.
I know. I know my kids like it. You know, my kids have watched like the Lego ones and some iteration of Scooby Doo or another that they've seen on like direct-to-video movies and whatnot.
There's a billion of them. There's a billion Scooby-Doo,
yeah.
direct-to-DVD, Scooby-Doo and Monster Island, Scooby-Doo meets Kiss, Scooby-Doo meets Metallica.
It was Zombie Island, not Monster Island.
Anyway. Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island, then. Scooby-Doo and various...
For a reason, okay? I'm standing on my soapbox.
Scooby-Doo and The Walking Dead, Scooby-Doo and The Wire, Scooby-Doo
and... You joke, but I'm pretty sure there is one. Scooby-Doo and the gang meet Batman and take on the Joker. The Joker, in fact, does have a loss to the Scooby Gang on his record.
Yeah, actually... You know what we watched?
We watched movies of the 70s.
We watched the Scooby-Doo WWE crossover. I know we watched that one. My
They've
point
done
is,
several of those. It's everywhere.
yeah.
There was a period where they put the WWE against any character from Hanna-Barbera they could. They apparently had a license, and they were not going to lose it. There's a freaking Flintstones meets WWE
Yeah,
movie.
we've seen that one too. Just as funny then, every time they use the word rock. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to get to is I didn't want to do this. I was going to watch the movie because I have kids, and this is what we do as a family, and it was fine. And then I was quickly going to hit myself in the head with a hammer and forget all about it. However, one of you betrayed me this night. One of you.
I'm going to sue you for gimmick infringement in a minute.
One of you foisted this upon the immaculate record of Damn You Hollywood and made me do this. And I want to know, because I don't remember, who is to blame for this nonsense that we have to review tonight? Who wanted to do this?
Hang on. Allow me to retread to the best of my recollection the series of events.
Wasn't it Jason?
Who, of course, is not here.
Yes. It was something along the lines of Jason going, "Hey, Scoob's getting a direct release. If you're going to see it, we should review it." And Alexis immediately chimed in with, "Sure, I'm an animation nut. I'm happy to come on and talk about this stuff." I said I have no interest, but I will bow to the wills of democracy, and Mark abstained. So 2-0. We were outvoted.
See, I actually thought that I wasn't going to be coming on the show tonight because I thought that with Jason and a couple of others, it was going to be too crowded.
What couple of others? You keep saying that. Who else does the show besides you two?
I could have sworn there was more people who wanted to talk about Scoob.
No! And half the time, let me tell you about the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, you bunch of fucking flakes. People ask to do shit with me, and then they're like, "Oh, I have other things I have to do. I have to work. I have kids. I have the coronavirus." Fuck, whatever. There's always a reason somebody fucking bows out, which is why I double and triple book shows.
And also why you have to pay me what you pay me, because you can call on me at the 11th hour.
Yes.
Not in this instance. Again, I was essentially on board for this from the beginning.
Wait a minute, you get paid?
No, that's the joke.
Ow, don't make me laugh, it hurts.
So, no, that is the joke, that Mark doesn't pay me because the service that I provide, despite being essentially invaluable to him and the content that he tries to produce, is not actually worth anything. But I have lamented on occasion that, hey, I got kind of roped into this by pinch hitting for somebody else at the last minute, and 3 years later, they're nowhere to be found, and I'm still here talking about this show once a year.
I missed you, Robert. I missed you so much.
I said no one ever.
So
I appreciate the sentiment.
So I'm not a fan of Scooby. You're not a fan of Scooby. But Alexis Hejna is a fan of Scooby and knows all kinds of Hanna-Barbera things. So let's take a moment to appreciate what is obviously a popular IP, and let's let somebody who is actually passionate about it to one degree or another talk about it. The floor is yours, Alexis.
Okay, am I actually doing the synopsis here, or?
No. Well, I thought you wanted to get into like some of the notes and like stuff about Scooby, or did you, or was the stuff directly related to the movie?
Bit of both. Like I said, yes. I am a huge fan of Scooby Doo. I have watched nearly every iteration since I was a little kid. My favorite is still the always classic Scooby Doo, Where Are You? But I've seen the Scooby Doo movies. I've seen the episode where they join Batman and take on the Joker. I've seen the one where Mama Cass owns a candy factory. I've seen the one where they meet Sandy Duncan on a film set. I've seen the one where Don Knotts is pretending to be a security guard. I've seen the one where they go and meet the Addams family. I have seen this. And Scooby has always fascinated me, not because I think it's just be-all, end-all great. I do enjoy it. But the fact is that there has, I don't think, been a gap of more than 5 years between any installment of Scooby-Doo. This series has been given new life more times than any other fandom that I can think of. I think it's even been resurrected more often than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well, it started earlier. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, this is one of those things that, again, it kind of boggles my mind. The original Scooby Doo, Where Are You, only ran for like 1 year, didn't it? From 69 to 70?
Hang on, I'll pull open the actual information here. Let's see here.
I shared with my coworkers your line about somewhere in the Warner Brothers office is a podium, and in the podium is 2 buttons. One says Batman, and the other one says Scooby.
That's my joke.
Oh, okay. Well, I attributed it to Bambi.
No, that has always been my joke.
That's pretty much all they've got at this point going for them.
And for the record, Scooby Doo, Where Are You ran for 3 seasons.
Oh, my mistake then. Still, we're talking about a very limited run of something in the... Like, at that point in time, stuff ran a lot longer as a general rule because there wasn't a lot on. Like, if you couldn't get 5 seasons out of your idea, it was considered fairly to be something of a failure. And, again, it keeps coming back. It does kind of... I don't get it. I really don't, and it boggles my mind that just, hey, you know what? More Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I've actually got the list here. From...
Right.
Okay, Scooby. Okay, it ran for 3 seasons, but those seasons were not full years. It only ran from 69 to 70, but it was compressed differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, by 1972 to 73, we got the new Scooby Doo movies. That's what I was talking about earlier with Mom McCass, Don Knotts, and Batman. Then we got a new show called the Scooby Doo Show. That ran from 76 to 78. After that, we got Laugh Olympics, which Scooby and Shaggy were part on. That ran for a year. Then we got Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. And then we had 2 different versions of that. One ran from 79 to 80, and another one from 80 to 82. And, of course, during this time, we're also starting to get the television films and specials like Scooby-Doo Meets the Boo Brothers, Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Let's see here. 83, we get the new Scooby and Scrappy-Doo show / the new Scooby Mysteries.
I remember that as a kid.
In 1985, we get the 1 season of the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Vincent Price, You Will Always Be Immortal. 88 to 91, we get a pup named Scooby-Doo.
I remember that.
Isn't that the one where they were all like grade school kids?
Yes.
Yes. Fun fact, actually.
Didn't that one have the running gag where Fred always thought it was like the school bully in every
whose
episode?
name was Red Herring, yes.
And it was never him?
Yeah. Fun fact, actually.
There was actually one where, I seem to recall, there was one where, I think it's Red Herring. He's not even, and the actual line I think Velma says to him is he's not even in this episode, Fred.
Remember that episode? And it was Daphne who said it.
Okay.
God help me. No, I was just...
I knew it was one of those two. I took a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say some fun fact. The animation team responsible for majority of Pup Named Scooby-Doo went on to do the animation for Tiny Toons.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I can see the similar styles.
Yeah, if you actually look at the characters dancing on a Pup Named Scooby-Doo, and then you can really see the outlines of what they will do with Buster and Babs, especially that kind of foot shuffle dance thing that the characters, you know what I'm talking about? All right, so then we get probably our longest hiatus, but of course during this time we're also getting a lot of the other Scooby movies, including my personal favorite, the Scooby-Doo Project, which was a Blair Witch parody that they did on Cartoon Network.
Oh, God, I haven't seen that, but that's, again, if I'm going to give credit to anything, it's parodying the Blair Witch Project.
I freaking love that. It's like, my feet hurt. Well, is it our fault you wore high heels on a hiking trip? And then they wake up and there's all these little shrines with Scooby snacks outside. And they're like, well, we don't know what to say. Shaggy, you could get rid of them. Like, I'm not eating that, man. Scooby, you do that. Okay. Arr. Wait, did you trick me? So we get the reincarnation of the Scooby movies with Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island in 1998, which was kind of I would say the second coming of Scooby-Doo in popularity. Zombie Island, I think, is actually a really good movie. Not to mention it has some legit good scares. Because then after that we get What's New Scooby-Doo in 2002, followed by Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue. Then we get the show just called Mystery Incorporated, Be Cool Scooby Doo, and Scooby Doo and Guess Who. Right. And again, we have Scooby Doo, Moon Monster Madness, Scooby Doo and Kiss, Rock and Roll Mystery.
What years were the live action ones?
The live action films were...
About what's less said, the better.
We had the first one in 2002, the second one in 2004. We had a direct-to-DVD film, which was kind of an origin story called Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins in 2009. And we had two films, one called Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the Lake Monster, and apparently in 2018 we had a movie called Daphne and Velma.
I believe that's by Wicked Pictures.
You're a terrible man, Mark.
No, worse. It's produced by Ashley Tisdale's Blondie Girl Productions.
Oh, that is worse than porn. One. Yeah.
And I don't even watch porn.
No, this was...
I'd be happier knowing that kind of parody existed rather than Ashley Tisdale's version.
You can rest assured it does.
Yeah, sorry guys, that is
it
not
always exists.
That is not the many porn adaptations of Scooby-Doo. That was a legit thing.
Ugh.
And, of course, throughout that we have video games, comic books. Go check out our reviews of Scooby Apocalypse here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. Plug.
All right.
All of which does, in fact, lead us to 2020 and Scoob. All right, here comes your plot synopsis. So if you're wary of spoilers, I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. We open with... Look, I sent Mark a message when I started watching this at around midnight. I was like 2 minutes into it and I already hated it. Because this opens with the strains of California Love. And if you ever want me to hate something, start it with that song.
I was mostly just confused why one guy was skateboarding by with a boombox, but then Shaggy as a kid pulls out a smartphone.
I know! They didn't know what they were doing with that.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, this takes place in the 90s. Cool, that makes sense. He has a smartphone. WTF?
Yeah, anyway, so we open in Venice Beach, California, in some indeterminate period of time.
It's not Venice Beach, it's Coolsville.
Okay.
Population, us. Oh, come on. I pull out an Iron Giant reference and I get nothing.
I wish I had like, cricket chirps.
First of all, it's been way too long since I've seen the Iron Giant to recognize all the gags. So, my apologies. You are referencing at least a quality film, which is more than Mark does most of the time.
Referencing one of the greatest animated films of the last 30 years. Thank you very much.
Meh.
Would have been so much better if they just let the robot be dead.
Transformers the movie is the best.
See what I'm dealing with here, people.
But no, for the record, it's been it's the town they live in is literally called Coolsville.
I hate writing some of these writers so much. Anyway,
come on, I want to go to bed sometime before midnight.
We are introduced to young Shaggy, who's... Did they say his real name was like Bernard or something?
Norville. Shaggy's real name is Norville Rogers.
Norville.
This is
I would go by Shaggy too, for the record. We're introduced to young Shaggy and young Scooby. Scooby steals a bunch of Euro meat and then proceeds to ride it around, just thus ruining its quality.
And also ruining the fact that it's clear this movie was made to be released in theaters in 3D.
Yeah, that's very apparent. Scooby and Shaggy run into each other. Scooby is being chased by a police officer. This would be Officer...
Yutzenfutz?
I think this is Officer Casey. Who's actually named after the original voice actor of Shaggy.
Hey, yeah, Officer Casey, you're right. Did you also notice that the restaurant that young Shaggy comes out of is called Casey's Creations?
I missed that.
I have notes, gentlemen. I have notes.
We do appreciate you padding out what would be Mark and I giving a collective man shoulder shrug. Anyway, they meet each other. Apparently there's a law on the books about how if a dog has a middle name, it can get away with theft and property destruction scot-free. So be sure to give your dogs a middle name, people.
Eddie, what do you want your middle name to be? I got nothing.
My kids have been bugging me to get a dog, and I think the compromise would be, fine, we can get a dog that you won't take care of, but we're going to call it Muttley.
Do it.
This is the best dog name ever.
Totally.
It really is. Anyway, so Scooby and Shaggy wind up becoming... Scooby becomes his dog, puts on a dog collar, it's touching, they go out trick-or-treating. They're ambushed by obnoxious millennial conspiracy theorists. They meet...
School-age bullies, ladies and gentlemen.
Who try to take their candy, not because they're just jerks who want to steal their candy, but because Halloween is a conspiracy constructed by big corn syrup.
I do love Scooby's line, and we're okay with that. For the record, they are, I mean, it's obvious they're just bullies who just decided to have some fun with, torturing these two. I mean, I'm sorry, did you never get picked on like that as a kid?
Oh, here we go.
Now, look, I was either constantly moving around or the scary kid.
Oh, see, I got beat up on a regular basis.
Get to the haunted house, because I have questions.
Okay. Just for the record, I was the guy, by the time I got to junior high and high school, I was the one people were afraid was going to shoot up the place.
Yes, and now you're a fucking ninja. We got it. Move on.
I am not a ninja. It's grossly inaccurate.
And if you were, you wouldn't tell us anyway.
Also true. They meet up with Fred, Daphne, and Velma. They go into the haunted house where their candy was thrown to help get it back. One of the only laughs I got out of this entire movie, by the way, comes when they all meet up.
Velma dressed as Ruth Bader Ginsburg for Halloween.
No. Again, what got me was actually the full punchline to that one. What Harry Potter house is she in? She's a Supreme Court justice. Oh, Slytherin.
That was good.
Confirmed, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, totally a Slytherin.
I want her to take the Pottermore quiz now.
She's a Slytherin. We all know it.
It could be worse.
I'm gonna go Captain Caveman on both of you.
Anyway, they go into this ostensibly haunted house where they are accosted by a ghost. Of course, it's not really a ghost. They wind up apprehending this person who had stolen a bunch of electronics and other stuff.
You got the world's smallest Walmart.
Yeah, Scooby and Shaggy find the stash of goods. They get arrested. They all decide, hey, this worked out pretty well. Let's make a life-altering decision when we're 10.
All right, so here, I have a question here.
Go for it.
So the guy stashing stolen goods in this abandoned house, and I guess I initially missed the detail of why they went into this fucking house in the first place.
That's where their candy got. That's
where the candy was. Okay. So, why would the crook who was storing stolen goods in this house have built an elaborate ghost alarm system to scare kids he didn't know were coming out of the house? Why didn't he would have just locked the fucking door?
No. Okay, hang on.
Well, first of all, that's the way it always was in Scooby Doo. There was always illegal activity, and the bad guy decided the best way to make sure that no one got close to discovering the truth was to have some horrible, spooky monster or ghost who, would jump out and scare you. So even, professional detectives would go, "Oh no, we're not investigating there. Too scary. Run!"
But there was always a reason. They were going skiing. Turns out the skiing place is haunted, and no one's investigating. I get that. The Scooby Gang always had a reason to be someplace. I didn't feel like they had a good reason to be in the house, or if they did, it was to get the candy and then fucking leave. You know what would have happened if they hadn't, had the ghost thing going on? They'd have gotten their candy and left. And that guy would still have his stolen televisions.
Not exactly. You do have the scene where they see the light coming from the dresser, which we find out is a hidden door to where he's stashing the stolen goods, and he opens it. The guy probably thought he needed to pull that off once the kids got nosy and opened the wardrobe.
It's a very prescient thief.
Mark, you're trying to apply too much logic to Scooby-Doo.
I've been stuck on this since I saw it. I had to get out of my system. You may resume, sir.
Fair enough. Again, I think his whole gimmick here is, again, I scare everyone away, so anyone who does show up does get the spook treatment.
You probably
And they will
wouldn't
then-
have pulled it off if the kids hadn't opened the wardrobe.
Yeah, probably. So there's a point being, they decide, yeah, we should do this professionally. So fast forward 10 years.
And end of the Scooby Doo Where Are You opening credits, which, let's face it, that was awesome.
Yeah, I did recognize that. Kudos for that. It did kind of come off well. They've now been solving mysteries for a while, and they're ready to try and turn this into an actual career. But the problem is, it's a bum market. The economy's in a downturn. They're struggling to get off the ground. They need an investor, and for some reason, they have Simon Cowell.
Because apparently somebody decided to throw in a joke that is 20 years old.
Yeah.
Well, it takes that long to animate these shows.
Sorry,
Really.
that is the one thing that I just was banging my head on the table going, who in their right mind thought this was a good idea?
If you wanted something much more relevant, you do Mark Cuban. Because he's actually a rich investor.
It was because they could have just said, we have an investor. Okay, so we have Mystery Inc. saying, okay, we need to go bigger. We need to get some business investors because just doing this on the reg is not paying the bills. And the Mystery Machine is falling apart. And they could have just brought in any investor. And it would have been
It
interesting.
doesn't even have to be someone in the real world. Like, hey, I'm Moneybags McGee. The Monopoly man walks in. I mean, come on.
There's a million rich characters. They missed an opportunity to have it be another Hanna-Barbera character. How awesome would it be if it was Dr. Quest who walked in saying he was looking to invest?
Could have been that. It's a shame they didn't. I mean, I know you can't because they're different properties, but come on. It could have been. If there was any possibility of Scrooge McDuck. I know DuckTales or Disney, I get it, but come on. Scrooge walks in, just has no time or patience for Shaggy or Scooby, totally in character.
Again, there's a million characters that could have gone with from the Hanna-Barbera library, and I will be spending the rest of this show randomly shouting out characters when it occurs to me, oh, how cool would it have been if they had used this guy.
Yeah, Simon Cowell is prepared to invest in Mystery Inc., but not as long as Scooby and Shaggy are on at the place because they annoy him and he thinks they drag down the product. Scooby and Shaggy don't actually bother to listen about whether or not their friends are going to vote them off the island. They just turn their noses up and head out. They go to a bowling alley to blow off steam, like you do.
Which is also probably one of the best Easter eggs in the entire movie.
The bowling alley being named after Judy Takamoto, who was the original designer of Scooby Doo.
Wait, what did you say the first name was?
Judy
It's listed as Judy.
Judy Takamoto.
Oh no, sorry, that's the character. My apologies.
Yeah, no. I actually don't know exactly. Iwao Takamoto was was a brilliant animator who worked for Hanna-Barbera and Disney and did the original designs of Scooby-Doo, among other characters. He's also the one who designed the Jetsons.
I will never forgive him for that one, then.
What, never wondered why Scooby and Astro look so similar?
I tried to block Astro from my mind. Much like all the Jetsons. So they, while bowling, they are accosted by a bunch of tiny robots. They very nearly meet their end, but are saved at the last minute by the Blue Falcon. He's not actually the Blue Falcon. This is the son of the Blue Falcon. Voiced by Mark Wahlberg. It just made me die inside.
By the way, I bet money that was Ryan Reynolds.
It sounds like when he got there, they said, hey, do Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. I thought the Blue Falcon was Ryan Reynolds, and I thought Dynamite was Patton Oswalt. I was wrong on both.
Okay, here's my biggest complaint with Dynamite. First of all, I don't get why they suddenly decided that Dynamite had to be the smart one. I'm assuming neither of you have ever seen Blue Falcon or Dynamite in the cartoons.
I mean...
maybe a couple of episodes. Wasn't Dynamite like a bumbling idiot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
the episode of Laugh Olympics we saw, they were in it.
Yeah, right away, BF. Okay, here I come. Go ahead and get some, bad guys. That was
Are you having a stroke?
That was Dynamite in a long shot. Huh?
Are you having a stroke?
Just wait till we get to the Romanian.
Anyway, they're rescued by the Blue Falcon. They wind up in his flying ship, the Falcon Fury, where they meet the pilot, Dee Dee. They meet Dynamite, voiced by Ken Jeong, who is a blight on humanity.
I don't know why they cast Ken Jeong. I mean, he's not doing a bad job in this, but it just feels like a wasted opportunity to get someone else. I mean, it's like, okay, so they just want somebody to sound a little fatigued because Brian is an idiot. Fair enough. But there's so many other comedians I think would have been so. What if they had gotten John Mulaney to voice Dynamite, same guy who did Spider-Ham?
I don't think it matters.
I mean, here's the problem.
I get your point about how this.
He didn't do anything with. He didn't do anything with the part, and that's kind of the big complaint with a lot of this, which is everyone just sort of comes in, reads their lines, and goes home. Nobody really creates a character with their voice.
One exception.
With one exception. But, and so, like, I feel like they got Kim Jong because they needed names. He was willing to do it for the paycheck. And that's as far as it went.
Yeah.
Again, I just feel like they could have had a lot of fun if they had gotten somebody who was a little bit more recognizable. And, again, Ken Jeong is not bad in this. It just feels wasted.
I mean, look, Ken Jeong is bad in life, but moving on. So they discover that at this point the Scooby and Shaggy are informed that the robots that were chasing them are the product of the only great performance to come out of this movie, Jason Isaacs as Dick Dastardly.
The world needs more Jason Isaacs.
That is largely true. He's a terribly underappreciated actor.
He was actually I actually got to see him live at one of my all-time favorite convention memories. I'm sorry?
Who was he there at? I mean, what was he there for?
Lucius Malfoy.
That would do it. Okay.
Yeah, no. I got to go to a panel called Twisted Tunes, where they bring in a bunch of voice actors who are appearing at the convention to read a script as different characters. So you had Bill Farmer and Tom Kenny and Greg Griffin and a couple of others doing the script from The Force Awakens. And like every couple of lines, they'll stop and they'll have them switch to different characters. So at one point, Tom Kenny's doing SpongeBob. One point, he's doing Porky Pig. And yeah, Jason Isaacs, I guess, I don't know if they planned this ahead, but he just walked in and they put him on. And they gave him a script, and he reached over to Tom Kenny's spot on the table and grabbed a pen so he could highlight some notes. And Tom Kenny, in full SpongeBob voice, goes, Lucius Malfoy just stole my pen!
Hey, Alexis, how much more notes do you have that tie directly into the plot?
A lot.
Okay.
I'm sorry, am I annoying you guys?
Look, Mark's patience is just thin is all. That's okay.
No, it's not that. I wanted Rob to get through the plot, but I know there were some things that jumped specifically with it, so proceed.
Okay, so we meet Mr. Dastardly as he then proceeds to chase our intrepid heroes, who barely escape, and then fill us in on the plot of what's going on with Dastardly. He is stealing the skulls of Cerberus for somewhat unknown reasons, but he's the bad guy and he's doing a thing, so we don't want him to do the thing. And he's also trying to kidnap Scooby. Around the same time are other three members of Mystery Inc., Fred, Daphne, and Velma.
Who are underused in this film.
They find one of the broken robots from Dastardly's attack on the bowling alley. They perform some bits of investigation on it, discover it was built by Dastardly, and head off to his wrecking yard for some kind of confrontation. But they also, the robot wakes back up, essentially, realizes who they are, transmits them and their location to Dastardly. He winds up abducting them. Scooby, when they get... there's a bit where they wind up in Romania because this version of the Blue Falcon is a total idiot. The way this is set up is rather than follow the tracking heat signatures that his crew has come up with, he decides, no, I got an anonymous tip about this place in Romania. That's totally where we're going. So him being the captain, despite being a moron to the nth degree, they head to Romania. They fight Dastardly again. Dastardly reveals that Scooby is important. This winds up driving a wedge between Shaggy and Scooby, where Scooby is now important, so the Blue Falcon wants to give him a suit, make him part of the team, and Shaggy is a useless tag-along. Again, wedge is formed. They wind up going for the third skull, which is located under the ice in... was this the North Pole or the South Pole? I can't remember.
Messick Mountain, named after Don Messick, the original voice actor for Scooby Doo.
So they wind up in this, essentially a Lost World parody, where they go under the ice and find, hey, a Mesozoic ecosystem that's been preserved.
AKA,
sure.
We wanted to find a way to fit in Captain Caveman.
They run into, actually, Shaggy and Scooby break up a little bit when Shaggy decides to stay back on the ship while Scooby heads out with Dynamite, Blue Falcon, and Dee Dee. They run into Captain Caveman, voiced by Tracy Morgan, just to further make me want to drive an ice pick through my eardrums.
See, I thought he was funny.
So did I. But Robert hates California Love, Tracy Morgan, any sort of urban style or culture.
Okay, I actually watched the original Captain Caveman growing up. I would have, plowed an ice pick through my ears if I had to listen to the original voice. Tracy Morgan is an improvement. I think it was some pretty funny lines.
Did you watch Captain Caveman and Son?
Of course.
Caveman and Son.
Well, I was a little too young for Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, which is where Dee Dee came from.
Gosh. So anyway,
Captain Caveman is guarding the skull. He gets beaten by Dynamite after making a mockery out of Scooby and Blue Falcon because, they're morons. Dastardly shows up, steals Scooby, steals the skull, after utilizing... He shows up in a costume, dressed as Fred in the Mystery Machine, to trick Shaggy into taking him there because Dastardly's on the way.
We skipped something very important that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
It's a very important detail. He's not the whole thing motivating him to find the tomb of Cerberus.
He's just trying to open the gates to the underworld.
And this actually made me tear up a little bit. I was very sad about this. He shows a picture of his lost dog, his dog that has gone away from him, Muttley. That actually broke me up. I was like, oh my god, those bastards have killed Muttley. And of course I got faked out.
Nope, Muttley got locked into the underworld. At least they finally managed to kill Yankee Doodle Pigeon, since a stuffed version of him is seen on the shrine. That was a little depressing.
I was happy about that.
But Muttley's the fucking man. And I was very sad that, he's like, oh, my dog is gone. My dog is gone. And you see a picture. My wife, was legitimately worried because I was broken up about it.
Credit to Billy West for doing a really good version of Muttley, by the way. I think he got that hissing little snicker and the raza, raza, raza voice really well.
Raza, raza, raza. Tracy Morgan. Raza, raza, raza. Chris Rock. Raza, raza, raza.
Look, man, if you want me to turn into Muttley, I will. Just saying.
That'd be great if from now on, damn you. And now, here's your host, Robert Winfree. Robert, what are your thoughts on the new Transformers movie? Raza, Michael Bay.
Raza, a pile of shit.
Okay, now have the Muttley scale of approval. We're either going to get the snicker that it was good, or we're going to get the raza if it was shit.
Yep. eye droppings.
Go on. I needed to get my rant about Muttley out of the way.
No, you're correct. While Fred, Daphne, and Velma are stuck on Dastardly's airship, they do break out. Daphne saves a small robot that he had stuck a dustbuster on his
That
bed.
was kind of a fucked up scene when he ripped the robot's head off. I was like, that's a little messed up.
So the robot winds up being on their side, which comes into play later. They discover part of his plot. He needs Scooby because Scooby is the last descendant of the dog of Alexander the Great.
Because of course
That's actually Peritus was. That's historically accurate. Alexander the Great did have a loyal dog named Peritus.
It's historically accurate that Scooby is its descendant?
No, just that Alexander the Great had a dog named Peritus.
Got it.
And a horse named Bucephalus, too. Named a city after it. Anyway.
And let me be clear that a horse is a horse, of course.
Okay, I walked right into that. They
Who added the horse line, not me.
No, they discover that, he wants to open the gates to the underworld because he opened a back door into this room where apparently Alexander the Great had stashed his treasure after conquering the known world at the time, and sealed it with the assistance of his dog, and now it can only be opened by either a descendant of Alexander, who had no children, or his dog Peritus, who probably had a bunch. I'm just saying, spaying and neutering was not common practice when Alexander the Great was around.
Thank you for that.
So he had opened a back door into this portal, and Muttley had been able to go through it, but not come back out. And now he is locked in this room he's locked in this treasure room with Cerberus, and the guy misses his dog, which I completely relate to. And so that's his kind of primary motivation. He wants to get rich, and more importantly, he wants to rescue his dog. Despite the fact that, and I love the way he talks about Muttley when he's gone. He's still like, oh, that flea-bitten, cantankerous, smelly canine. I miss him. Because that is how you feel about your dog. They do things that annoy you. They have bad habits, and you still love them to death.
Tell me about it. I'm currently bribing Eddie with treats so he doesn't start barking and interrupting the show.
I'm pretty sure that's what he wants his middle name to be, some kind of treat-related pun. So now Dastardly has all three skulls. He has Scooby. He has wrecked the Falcon Fury. He is poised to claim victory. The group starts disintegrating. Shaggy brings them back together with a heartfelt speech. They graft parts of the Falcon Fury onto the Mystery Machine to make it fly, like you do. They chase after Dastardly. Dastardly takes everything to Athens. Summons supernaturally the gates to the underworld. Uses Scooby to open them. Cerberus comes out and starts wrecking shop. The mystery gang arrives. Their mystery machine is shot out of the sky, destroying it to the chagrin of Fred, who loved that car more than life itself.
That was new to me. They've never had that plot point.
Well, he's a guy and he had no character, so his character is he likes his car.
Fred's character has always been that he wanted to plow Daphne.
Well, I think that's in there too.
Alright. I'm going to make a bad joke, but I won't. So anyway, they all show up. Combat ensues. The Blue Falcon finds his moment to be heroic despite being scared. Dastardly heads into the underworld, finds Muttley. Muttley does the old plays possum, makes you think he's dead. Just so we can know how he really felt about him. They reunite, they fight, they reunite again, they steal treasure, they leave. Cerberus is eventually beaten back through a lot of teamwork, but the door to the underworld can only be locked by a boy and his dog, basically. And one of you will have to be on the other side of the gates of the underworld when it's locked. Scooby initially seems like he's going to go through with it. Shaggy interrupts him. Shaggy's the one locked on the other side. But because this is a kid's movie and we can't have anything even remotely interesting or well-written like them breaking into Dastardly's office, laboratory, to reconstruct his backdoor portal and then having Scooby be able to travel through both ways because he's the dog. The magical phone booth, call box, what have you, appears. Scooby recites some lines of ancient Greek poetry. Shaggy appears, and all is well.
I did kind of like Cerberus kicking Shaggy out. It just kind of reminded me of this one episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. It's like, here, take him. It's not worth it.
And we don't want him anymore. I can't spend eternity with this guy. So everyone's reunited. They're able to, Dastardly is then caught, brought back. There's a Simon Cowell fake out. But no, it was a double mask, because no one expects the double masking.
That was actually kind of clever. I don't think we've ever done a double masking with Scooby Doo like that.
Probably not. So Mystery Inc. opens their actual building. The Falcon Fury shows up and gives them a brand new Elon Musk approved Tesla variation of the Mystery Machine. Henry Winkler, who does a voice for like the production assistant for the Falcon Fury, finally gets his cue right. Blue Falcon goes off to form a new Falcon Force, including Captain Caveman, Jabberjaw, Adam Ant, Grape Ape.
Jab, 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 jabba jaws. He's the greatest shark Robert Winfree ever saw. Yuck, 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 yuck.
Go smoke a bowl of Grape Ape.
Didn't we decide there actually was a strain of...
Yes!
Yeah, that's exactly why I said it. That was the joke that when we did that episode.
Muttley winds up breaking Dastardly out of prison, like you do. And the gang goes back to solving mysteries, now on a slightly more stable financial footing, I guess.
And we see Dr. Quest building Frankenstein Jr. That was interesting.
Yeah, we see a lot of cameos during the end credits. Again, we see the new Falcon Force and all the people that are assembled there. We do see Dr. Quest.
I'd like to know who redesigned Adam Ant and have them drug onto the street and shot.
Because, hey, Ant-Man, I'm surprised they weren't served with a cease and desist order from Disney. I'm genuinely a little bit surprised Disney didn't sue them over that.
Well, it kills me because I paused it when it was happening. I was like, so is that Magilla Gorilla or is that Grape Ape? And I was like, wait, that's actually supposed to be Ant-Man?
They're not going to do...
Sorry, go ahead.
They're not going to do any of that because eventually Warner Brothers is going to have a fire sale of their IP and they'll end up getting Hanna-Barbera anyway.
All right, fair enough. And that is where things end for this particular movie. I think the only bit I got a laugh out of Ruth Bader Ginsburg being a Slytherin. I vocally went ha because it amused me. I think there was one other. I ribbed my brother about the existence of Keith because he hates the name. But there's not a lot here unless you're deep into the lore of Hanna-Barbera. There's not a lot here. It's your basic story about friendship overcoming artificial obstacles, people not actually being able to communicate with each other, leading to our resolution. Again, I don't have a lot. If you're over the age of about 8, there's probably not much here for you.
And now here to tell you how much he enjoyed the movie, being over the age of 8, Alexis Hejna.
I did qualify. If you're deep into the lore of Hanna-Barbera, there's a lot here that is very inside baseball. So it's not going to play for the general audiences, but it is there.
I'm not going to say this movie was absolutely great. It wasn't. But there was definitely a passion to it. And yeah, the amount of Easter eggs they threw in, you could tell that even if the writers weren't totally Hanna-Barbera crazed nut jobs, the animators were. I mean, you have the Impossibles trick-or-treating. You have a mural with Squiddly Diddly. You have Peebles' Pet Shop where Magilla Gorilla hung out. You have the R&S coffee shop that's obviously an homage to Ruby and Spears. I want to know who had the idea to name. Oh, okay, so when they get to Captain Caveman and they mention the skull, and he goes, "You mean the Slag Hoople?" And I actually had to posit. Slag Hoople is Wilma Flintstone's maiden name. Just like, okay, that's definitely one of the more random ones I think I've heard so far.
I can't believe they actually gave Wilma Flintstone a maiden name.
Oh yeah, you know what Betty Rubble's maiden name is?
Go ahead, hit me with it.
McBricken. But yeah, I mean, I kept pausing this movie to look for more Easter eggs. When Scooby and Shaggy get beamed up by the Falcon, you can see graffiti on the wall that says Top Cat. When they are in Romania, all in the arcade, you have a Hong Kong Phooey. You have arcade games for Hong Kong Phooey, Laugh Olympics, Frankenstein Jr., and what I believe was supposed to be Penelope Pitstop.
Yep.
And
I
at
caught
the
most
end,
of those.
and at the end, when they're looking at Velma's laptop, it's got the Quest symbol on it from Quest Labs. I mean, there was just so freaking much in there to take apart that I did really enjoy it. I love the animation. I love that they went a lot goofier with it. I mean, for God's sake, I love the design of Dick Dastardly in this, because that's exactly the way he looked in the original cartoons, and they just had so much fun with the design of it, and I really enjoyed that. But this is not going down, I think, as one of the better movies to feature Hanna-Barbera characters. There was a lot of jokes that I was disappointed they didn't go with. We talked about the whole thing with Simon Cowell. I was just sitting there going, why did you think using Simon Cowell's a good thing? Yeah, I don't get that.
Yeah, Simon Cowell hasn't been the heel panelist in, 10 years?
Well, it takes that long to animate one of these things.
Oh, stop it.
When did he move back to Britain's Got Talent?
Oh, several years ago, and then he came back for America's Got Talent. So, yeah, at least 5. At a bare minimum, 5 years, somewhere between 5 and 10.
Yeah, again, it's like, that was just so freaking random. Again, I did enjoy it. The voice acting, for the most part, I was okay with. Thank God they didn't try to replace Frank Welker as Scooby Doo, or I think the fans would have rioted. I don't really get why they got like Zac Efron and Amanda Seyfried to do Fred and Daphne, because they really didn't do anything. They weren't bad, but much like Ken Jeong, a lot of the voice acting in this felt like it was wasted. You know, it's like you get these high-end actors in here and you're not really letting them do anything.
Yeah, I think the only performance. I mean, look, sure, Billy West is Muttley, great. Frank Welker is Scooby. He can do Scooby in his sleep.
Well, Frank Welker is the god of voice acting.
Well, him and D. Barker Bradley, but
He's been working longer.
a little bit of a shout out, I suppose, to Fred Tatasciore, who does the sounds of Cerberus.
Yeah, very true.
The only voiced performance I think that is really noteworthy at all is I mentioned already Jason Isaacs as Dick Dastardly,
who is clearly having a blast doing his role, and I would love to see Jason Isaacs do more comedic stuff. He is legit funny.
Yeah, he really is, and that's the only performance as such that I think is noteworthy. But again, if you have a small child like Mark's children, I mean, your kids had to find enough time with this, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, my only contribution to the to the craft review of this is it felt like this is supposed to be the first step in a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe.
Ugh.
It definitely felt a little overstuffed. It definitely felt like they just rushed something out there, and they figured, well, if you put Scooby out, they will come. And had the world operated the way it was supposed to this year, and not the way that it had, I mean, who knows how well this would have done in theaters, but the idea was...
I think it would have been fine, but not great, you know?
It definitely would have made enough to get the second film in the cinematic universe or a sequel greenlit.
Probably. My point being that, this movie wasn't made to impress the three of us. Though I think for someone like Alexis, who obviously knows the lore and the Easter eggs and whatnot, there was that element to it. But if you're just like a parent bringing your kids to this, it's an inoffensive way to have spent 90 minutes. And yeah, my kids for some odd reason, and it might have been the length of the movie and like the lightheartedness of it, preferred this to Trolls. Whereas, and I really, you haven't seen the movie, so
Nor will I.
So I don't want to get into a big debate with you in absentia. Like I saw it, having been very prejudiced against the first one. Still haven't seen.
Well, the first one's. Hold on. You and I both like. There was a brief debate I remember when Trolls came out because there wasn't anything else that weekend, and I was terrified that you were going to say, "Hey, let's review Trolls." I was prepared to grab my pitchfork and my torch and riot.
I would like credit for never making you do Trolls or the Emoji Movie, both of which my kids saw in theaters.
Okay, you get credit for not putting forth the idea that we should review them, which I would not have done.
My point being that Trolls World Tour, just as a comparison, was actually very cleverly written. And I think for somebody who... I mean, maybe I'm elevating it in my mind just because I have such a great love of music. It's one of my passions as a fan. And the music kind of uses that as a backdrop. But besides all that, like I said, I thought it was a very witty, very clever movie. And this movie has some fun sight gags in it. Your mileage may vary on how clever it is, but to me, it just felt like... It felt very direct-to-video.
If I might interject, when probably the cleverest gag you have is about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or Scooby's inability to pronounce D, making Dick Dastardly scream "Dick" over and over again, while Scooby says "Rick."
See, I was actually hoping that we were mature enough we weren't going to mention that joke.
Nope.
Look, Mark brought up the sophistication of the writing, and like when that's one of your highlights.
Well, let me ask you this. Again, there's a board on Facebook that's a bunch of cartoon researchers, and I asked them today, I said, okay, so if it's obvious that Hanna-Barbera is going to get a cinematic universe here, let's assume the next movie is not a Scooby sequel. Chances are pretty good it's going to be, but let's assume it's not. What characters do you want to see them make another movie out of? And I opened the floor, and we got a ton of variations here. The most popular being Johnny Quest.
Yeah.
A couple people suggested having Space Ghost and Birdman team up.
Heck yes. Look, the only thing I really want out of a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe, I want a special release after each movie of Space Ghost Coast to Coast where he talks with the cast.
Oh my God, yes!
Wouldn't even watch the movies, I would watch that.
Let's see here, what else we got here? Okay, Wacky Races was thrown around a lot, but I think a majority of people here agree that if they do Wacky Races, they have got to hold off and make it and build up to that. Because if
they should do Wacky Races like the Avengers. Like
exactly.
you include all the original characters, but also include you bring in Scooby, you bring in the Falcon Force, you bring in everybody else, and your big thing is just a wacky race.
See, I disagree. I think they should do Wacky Races like the Fast and the Furious or the Cannonball Run.
I'm thinking Wacky Races more like Cannonball Run.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay, let's see here. The Herculoids got thrown around a couple of times.
Hey, should I share with her my idea?
No. That idea should be left where it spawned.
I wanted to do a Herculoids not Inhumans. Thundar the Barbarian. I wanted to do a Thundar the Barbarian Herculoids crossover.
How has that not been in a comic book yet?
I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
All right. So I'm personally hoping for the Impossibles. That was another Hanna-Barbera superhero team that didn't get a lot of airplay, but always had a secret spot. Someone suggested we should have a secret squirrel film.
I'd go for Jabberjaws.
I could see Jabberjaw working pretty well. But yeah, it looks like the most popular ones were Johnny Quest, the team up between Space Ghost and Birdman, and somebody really wants an inch-high Private Eye film.
All right, so just to wrap up so we can move on with this before I can't talk anymore. I thought it was average. I didn't think it was great. I preferred Trolls World Tour. I didn't think, with the exception of Jason Isaacs, I didn't think the voice cast did anything spectacular with their parts, anything particularly memorable. I thought the plot was, at best, just blah.
The best thing about the plot was, honestly, the best thing about the plot was the slight twist that Dick Dastardly wasn't just trying to get rich; he was trying to save his dog.
Yeah,
and that's get rich in the process.
That was the most genuine. The Dick Dastardly Motley stuff was the best stuff for the show in a movie called Scoob.
Yep.
They were really well done. This movie had some passion behind it, and as much as I've been going on and on about all the background references and all the breaks, background references do not make a backbone of a film.
That is very true.
Thank you, Saber Spark. I'm stealing your lines. But no, I enjoyed it, but I will say this. I do think that the passion, and there is a spark here, that could launch something really good with some more movies. I think they're on the right track. And if they continue to put in more effort and just work at it a lot harder. It's like, okay, I'm willing to let you guys go with this if you try harder on the next one. And for the love of God, make sure the next one is an actual other Hanna-Barbera operation. We don't want a Scoob sequel.
All right, you ready to do the money? Yes? Robert?
I have nothing else to add.
All right, here we go.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
All right, well, we don't have a budget, but according to the Wikipedia, Scoob was the top rented film on Prime Video, Google Play, Fandango Now, and the iTunes Store in its opening weekend. Although Warner Brothers has yet to report actual figures, the film had a higher count than Trolls World Tour, which made $40 million over its first 3 days. But that's not the headline here. Sorry, guys. What we want to talk about, because we can't really do what we normally do in the money part, is discuss, since we last did one of these, what's going on in the movie world, which is that because of Trolls World Tour, and I forget the other one that they're picking a fight with, two movie chains, one of which is AMC, have decided...
I think it was AMC and Regal.
Yeah.
I think...
And then
it's one of the two other movie chains in my area, and I was like, it's either Regal or Cinemark.
Right.
It's not Cinemark.
Then it's Regal.
They went after Universal and said, we're not going to play your movies anymore. And then there was another studio they went after, isn't there? Was it Warner Brothers or was it something else?
I think it's just Universal at the moment, because Universal distributes Warner Brothers stuff.
Okay. So, I need to take a minute here. But, Robert, what's your assessment of this poke in the eye, fight picking that AMC Theaters is doing?
I'm a little bit... I kind of understand what AMC's doing. They're very near bankruptcy as it stands. They were not in good straits before the pandemic. So, after the pandemic, well, you can imagine.
Well, aren't they just an inch away from bankruptcy?
Yeah, they're very close. And I think when it comes to stuff like this, they really have to put a line in the sand to try and reverse the trend, or just kind of acquiesce and go quietly into the night. So I think, again, I understand it. You can't, if you're AMC, it's not so much that you're going to change the trajectory of the culture, right? It's more that you're trying to bring some eyeballs to what's going on, and ensure some of the future of your product to the extent that you can for as long as you can. Because the alternative is simply to give up, declare bankruptcy, sell everything off, and move on to the next chapter. And
So-
I don't think they're really going to go that way yet.
So a couple of things. One, since this happened, Disney has by and large just moved stuff. Warner Brothers has mostly moved stuff. This was the only thing they've released VOD so far. And as near as I can tell, the only thing they plan to release VOD. Like Wonder Woman comes out in August. Just looking at the movies list from this year, short as it is. Like Disney,
And of course, this is all subject to change based on the upcoming weeks with the states reopening.
yeah. Well, like here in Florida, Pinellas County, which is the next county over here in Tampa Bay, is opening movie theaters, but Hillsborough County, which is where the city of Tampa is, not so much. Not just yet. But what I was going to say is, it's sort of a mixed bag because you have Disney who pushed everything else. They pushed Black Widow, they pushed Mulan, but they pulled Artemis Fowl and said, "Fuck it, Disney Plus." When this story broke, like the most immediate thing that it affected was this Universal's The King of Staten Island, which is the next Judd Apatow movie with Pete Davidson. If
Which
you're looking,
no one should watch anyway.
yeah. If you're looking for something that actually matters, the next Universal picture this might possibly affect would be, right now you have, that's why I couldn't remember. Alexis, see if you can find something on this for me. If AMC is picking a fight with Warner Brothers, because they're the ones that are going to be immediately affected if AMC picks and the other theater chains pick a fight with them. Right now, everything is sort of banking on Tenet. If the movie theaters, by and large, across the United States and the world are not ready for Tenet, and Tenet gets pulled, you can pretty much kiss movies goodbye for the rest of the year. Like, nothing's coming out until 2021.
Okay, I am not seeing anything with Warner Brothers. Every article I'm seeing here is AMC and Regal are picking fights with Universal, but I'm not finding any other theaters.
Okay. So
Apparently, moreover, Disney and Warner Brothers have endeared themselves to exhibitors by keeping upcoming releases on the summer movie calendar. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking Universal had less coming out in 2020 than Warner Brothers did, so it seems more likely AMC Theaters was willing to turn a blind eye to Scoob coming out as long as they get some of the bigger blockbusters, aka Wonder Woman.
yeah, so they have Tenet in short order between Warner Brothers and Disney, just focusing on those two. You've got Tenet, Mulan, Wonder Woman, The Empty Man, which is Fox, but that's Disney. The One and Only Ivan. This is all in August, between July and August. Now New Mutants, ha ha ha.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
I'm legit really starting to feel sorry for the people who worked on that movie.
So the next Universal
They've all already been paid and cashed that check 2.5 years ago. I don't think any of them care at this point.
So let's say The King of Staten Island goes directly VOD. The next movie that would be affected, that really does need a theatrical release, theoretically, but may not get it if AMC continues down this road, would be Candyman, which got booted this September 25th.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
Well, you may have to see it at home. But then there's
Look. Every theater around me is a Cinemark. I'm probably fine, actually.
So
The nearest theater near to us actually got shut down and turned into a Nordstrom's, if you can believe it.
so here's the thing.
That hurts.
Yeah, the closest theaters to us are a couple of AMC's and a B&B.
Here's the thing. A lot of the big Universal stuff got pushed to either late this year or next year. Like Fast and the Furious got pushed to next year, which there was going to be a Fast and the Furious next year movie anyway. Jurassic Park, that's another billion-dollar project. That was already next year. But Universal does have a slew of movies coming out between September and December. There's Candyman, Bios, Halloween Kills, The Croods 2, which will probably
Ugh.
and
That
then
got it. Woo.
yeah, and then News of the World. So if they can't
That's
get
all
this
terrible.
if they can't get this settled by the end of the summer, I mean, here's the thing. One argument might be, well, they're going to feel pain because, these movies need wide releases. They need global releases in order to make back their budgets. On the other hand, we really don't know how these things are doing VOD. I will tell you this, Trolls World Tour, we paid the $20 rental. Scoob, we had the option of buying it. That was the weird thing about that one. Because with Trolls World Tour...
Amazon had a buy option. When I didn't buy it, I rented it. I actually waited until Tuesday, and they were nice enough to knock off another $1. So it only cost me $18.
Yeah, when I watched it on Friday, I almost bought
which is only
the thing.
which is only 13 more than I pay when I go to the theaters. You just jacked it, made me pay twice as much as I normally do. Thanks.
I actually bought it last night on Amazon. A lot of times, if the rental fee versus the purchase fee is just like a difference of a few dollars, I say screw it.
So, point being that we don't know if the model is supporting VOD. And it might. I think it's going to end up being a mixed bag where your $200 million plus movies kind of have to go big screen because the model doesn't support making your money back. I mean, let me posit this question. Hang on. Let me posit this question to you, and then you can make your point, and then I think we can move on from this. Had Avengers Endgame been only VOD, does it make almost $3 billion?
No.
Not even close.
Right.
One of the things there's a couple of things that you lose if you go with what Amazon did with Scoob versus the theatrical experience. One is you very quickly lose repeats. That's one of the reasons the rental fee is so high.
Right.
Because you're getting multiple people in a household or on an account versus selling a ticket to each one individually, and you get an amount of time with it, not a singular viewing. Some of which are concessions you have to make for the reality of being on demand. And I'm to be clear, this is not saying good, bad, or otherwise, but you lose repeat. And if you do the Scoob thing, where you can just buy it, you have now lost not only the theatrical money, you've only got the aftermarket sale value. Most movies, you have everything that you get from when it's released in theaters. Then, 6 months later, if you liked it, people buy the movie, be that digitally or a physical copy. If you're going to be cutting out essentially half of your revenue stream, or 50% of your potential revenue stream, by saying you can just buy it right away. It's not that you can't make this work, but I agree with you that the model needs to be adjusted if you're going to go VOD only. I mean, what you would probably wind up having to do is get Amazon to set up virtual theaters. Like, you buy a virtual ticket, you can stream it, but it's at specific times.
Yeah, that's what they're doing with our Clutch concert. They're actually doing a virtual concert where it's a full band lineup. It's like 4 bands, and they're each playing from whatever their isolated venue is. Like Clutch, who is the headliner, is playing from their practice space, the Doom Saloon. But you have to buy a ticket, and it's one time only. Like you can't just buy it buy a downloaded copy later.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you would have to do as a virtual theater kind of experience if you wanted to really maximize your financial return on that. And I'm not sure how well that would play. Might play fine, but let me be clear about that. I might have just given some dumb intern a $1 billion idea that I will get no credit for. But
So you're right about the repeats. I mean, how many of us have gone and seen a movie multiple times when it was in theaters? I saw Endgame twice. I saw Infinity War 3 times.
Yeah, I saw Endgame 3 times. Once by myself, once with my daughter, and once with my son.
I think I saw Endgame I think I saw Endgame twice, once by myself, once with my family, and then I saw Infinity War twice,
Right.
at least. Yeah, a really good movie in the theater is an irreplaceable experience. There's other things you can do. It's not that there's other things that aren't good, but if you don't go to a theater, there's certain movies that you will never properly experience the way they were meant to be experienced.
Well, then let's take this the other way. Is there a canary in the coal mine that spells the end of the $200 million movie? Where basically everything is now budgeted for potential VOD. And in other words, studios basically see the writing on the wall and be like, you know what? We'll make what we make from VOD. We'll keep what we would have had to give away to theater chains, and we'll just release everything VOD or to or to our streaming services, HBO Max, Peacock, Disney Plus, etc. And then you just get $50 million movies from now on.
I don't know that that's very feasible for what's certain. You would see such a drastic drop-off in quality.
Maybe you don't see many more Fast and the Furious movies. Well, here's what I'm kind of throwing out there. And this is a mental exercise, really. I don't know if this would really happen, but could you imagine a world where, because there's no way to get a billion-dollar movie anymore, for one reason or another, that studio execs stop greenlighting movies that need $200 million budgets and start going back to smaller budgets, smaller ideas, and like, you want to do a superhero movie, that's fine. You better make it a character piece, because we're not doing like huge special effects anymore.
Well, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I have a really hard time seeing it. There's not only too much money to be made at that very high end. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of risk involved too.
Mm-hmm.
When your $200 million movie flops, that's a big loss.
Sure. Just ask Warner Brothers.
By the same token, when your $200 million movie does $1.3 billion, and it's not just financial returns, it actually is like market share value,
We used to joke about Sony being bought by Disney because they had so many high-budgeted flops. And Fox, in large part, got dumped by Fox Corporate because it had so many high-budgeted flops. Like, after a while, you can't. Movies are no different than any like business stock. People lose faith and don't want to invest when you can't produce quality hits one right after another. The reason why Disney does as well as it does is for the BFG, there's a fucking Avengers movie. Even Star Wars, which is a garbage property right now, has done billion-dollar movies, with the exception of Solo.
Disney, I think, is a really good example. They don't mind taking an occasional risk on a movie flopping because they have so much cachet with the audience that their big properties are going to hit as long as they don't royally crap the bed.
Right. I mean, Toy Story 3 was nothing to write home about, and it made $1 billion on the low end. Yeah.
So Disney's in a somewhat unique position. As far as everyone else goes, again, do I see an era where essentially theaters die, and as a result and no one else kind of comes up with an idea to really monetize the home viewing experience in a similar fashion? I mean, if things trend that way, you would have to be much more conscientious about your budgeting. But you'd get a lot of people who just wouldn't be interested in what was coming out on a large scale. I mean, Mark, you would.
Not too many people interested in The Lobster.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, you weren't even interested in that except as a curiosity.
I love art films. What are you talking about?
I didn't say anything about art films. I said something about The Lobster specifically.
This list of movies.
I mean, you could kiss everything approximating a blockbuster that, as we know it, as far as big action movies, they'd basically be gone.
You have Tenet, Mulan, SpongeBob, Wonder Woman, Bill and Ted 3, New Mutants, A Quiet Place 2, Conjuring 2.
Okay, I actually zoned out for a second, so I actually thought you said that Bill and Ted 3's subtitle was New Mutants.
Yes, correct.
Wouldn't shock me.
The Kingsman, Candyman, The Trial of the Chicago
Look,
7.
what Bill and Ted actually saw when they went forward in time was a future where the New Mutants was released, and they've been trying desperately to prevent it ever since.
And it's working. Black Widow, Godzilla Kong, Soul, just like No Time to Die. Which, okay, I missed that one when I initially read this off. That's another... See, that's the big one. That's the one where Universal has to come to terms with them. They can't afford to not... That's a movie where they can't afford for it to be VOD only. They will lose money hand over fist on a new James Bond movie that only goes to VOD. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Bond cannot be VOD. Bond, especially this Bond, this was not a cheap movie to make.
No. And it's had, like, what, 2 delays at least?
Just the one real delay. I think they shifted it from earlier in the year to later as a consideration for some of the, like, before there were any major health considerations. It was like, we don't really like this date. We like this date more.
Yeah, well,
I think it was.
I think it was also an accident on set. Like, there was a couple of...
Yeah.
This has been a troubled production.
Yeah, Okay, if we're talking about the production, the production has had issues. But that movie really does need... That really needs, the big release, the worldwide box office.
All right. We've lost a lot.
There's so many movies that I don't care if they're released on VOD. Nothing replaces actually seeing an exciting film in the theater with a bunch of other people.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have wanted to watch Endgame at home the first time I saw it. First of all, I would have ended up committing child abuse, so...
The third time, look, no, just abuse. Because the third time his son came in, going, "Dad, look at this look at this useless thing I just found." He would have gone, "Shut up," and thrown a shoe at him.
No, the minute Thor chops Thanos' head off and the screen goes to black, my wife and kids would have been like, "Oh, it's over, great," and walked out of the room. And I've been like, "What the fuck?" And at about the 3-hour mark, my son would have been like, just fuck. I wish Thanos had snapped me. I can't take it anymore. When does this...
You'd go, "I'll show you a snap," and grabbed him by the neck.
Right. All right, and on that lovely thought, you know it. You love it.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
CBR is such a bad comic book website. Your time would be better spent watching porn.
It really is depressing how massively they have gone downhill in the last few years.
Yeah, it's not good. That's that Yar site that I sent you for comics. It has better content than fucking CBR. With that said, Cynthia Vinny. Well, the plot, when it finally kicks into gear, is driven along by MacGuffins that don't amount to much and aren't especially well explained. It hardly matters, says this film critic, when the real point of the film is to hang out with Scooby and friends.
Wow. You're going to just abandon anything approximating integrity and go, "Look at the doggy. I got to spend time with the doggy."
I love the doggy.
Yeah, no, sorry, no. Look, if you wanted to say that you don't care that much about the story because the actual draw of this film is seeing these characters again, fair enough. But that doesn't mean you should not say it doesn't matter. It matters. You can just say, here's the main draw. And sure, the story is weak, but we know what the main draw is. That said, the main story is still pathetically weak.
Here's one for Alexis. You ready, Alexis? You ready?
Yeah.
Get in the catcher's position. Get your mitt up. You ready?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Is this get ready as in take the full force, or is this get ready as in grab Betty and jump into the foxhole?
No. This is get in the catcher's position. Get your mitt up. I'm throwing a fastball at you. I don't want to hit you in the face. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Pamela Powell of Reel, and that's Reel, get it? Because movies, get it?
Yeah.
Do you understand? Reel? Like reel of film? You understand? Real honest reviews.
We've tackled this particular rag of a site before, haven't we?
Yeah. Scoob captures all the emotional resonance from the original series while stepping up the storyline to embrace the current times.
What emotional resonance? I have watched every single episode of Scooby Doo. Where Are You? A million times. There is no emotional resonance
at all.
That's not a bad thing. It's like it wasn't supposed to have emotional resonance.
Here's a pop fly for you there, Bambi. You ready?
Robert, you are going to regret every day for the rest of your life that you ever confessed that was your nickname.
It was going to be if I was a girl, apparently. My mother was very adamant that no, it would not.
You're still going to regret it.
I regret a lot of things.
Andre Meadows of Black Nerd Comedy. Pop fly to you, Robert. This is the whole capture from his review. I can read the whole review if you want, but this is the line that either the algorithm or the person or he chose to put on Rotten Tomatoes. You ready?
Yep.
The animation is tight.
Please tell me he spelled that with like multiple I's and an O thrown in there.
Say it's like, how did he spell that versus how did you coin it?
It's spelled dictionary correct.
Okay. Well, at least there's that.
Because it's tight. Nice.
You see, I'm not the biggest animation critic.
Do you agree or disagree that it's tight?
I would actually disagree on a lot of it. It's not bad, but most of the animation in this I don't think is really anything to write home about.
I thought it was good, but not stellar. Like I said, they captured a really great cartoony effect with it, and I enjoyed it for that, and gave it a little bit more of a timeless appeal. But
look, everyone's mouth apart from Dick Dastardly's barely moves.
Okay, I didn't catch that. I mostly just caught the fact that Dynomutt's eyes are going to haunt my nightmares for as long as I live.
Well, yeah, because they have the lines through them. They're mechanical.
And they keep moving like hypnotist wheels. It's so unsettling.
So we can all agree that it wasn't tight?
If it'll get you to stop saying that, then yes.
Like, can you hear the exasperated sigh I just let out?
You should know that I hurt myself doing that last one. Ryan...
you deserve that.
Randy Myers of San Jose Mercury News. Top critic.
Ooh, top.
Scoob is a goofy and bright surprise. An imaginative reboot that respects its Shaggy Dog TV roots, but is smart enough to add dashes, not shovelfuls, of wry pop culture and movie references.
Sorry, all of its references are unbelievably outdated.
They're not wrong on majority of that, but yeah, nothing in this movie I would say is quote-unquote fresh.
Yeah, it's all drawing from stuff that's way too old, for good and for ill. He is correct. It does respect where it comes from, pays a lot of homage to that. Genuine kudos. But dashes of more modernism, I'm sorry if you're just, hey, pop culture, it's Simon Cowell. No.
Frankly, we need less animated movies to rely on dashes of current pop culture like that. All it does is date the hell out of the film.
Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, I can't watch Shrek.
Not anymore. Well, okay,
Yeah,
then I can watch Shrek. I can't watch Shrek 2.
I can't really. I really can't watch Shrek 2. I could barely watch Shrek 2 when it came out. Yeah, I watch Shrek and I go, God, you're so 90s it hurts.
All right, Jeff York of The Establishing Shot. Get it? Because you do establishing shots when you're doing filming. Do you understand that he's a film critic?
I understand the reference he's trying to make, yes.
Okay, good. I just want to make... So, look, these guys are very bright and very
These are
clever.
clearly the most professional, highbrow, intellectual film critics you can
Yes.
find.
And these establishments...
Hey, Captain Caveman, can we move it along?
Don't you yell at me. I've let you guys yell all the time. It all manages to be breezy fun, with almost as many in-jokes and cultural references. Robert, are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
It all manages to be breezy fun, with almost as many in-jokes and cultural references as the Airplane or Scary Movie franchises in their heyday.
Oh,
Okay, who the flying hell just compared those two? And what's their home address? I need to go stab someone.
Jeff York of The Establishing Shot.
what an absolutely asinine comparison to make. Absolutely. First of all, how dare you compare Scary Movie to Airplane? Right?
Yeah.
Airplane's a classic.
Yeah, that's a fucking
not
crying shame right there.
It's like you cannot compare what is widely considered to be the absolute crux of parody comedy and reference comedy.
Yeah,
and I
those
use the word
those are
comedy
not the same thing.
very lightly.
Yeah, parody and reference are not the same thing. And I mean, really, look, Airplane had 2 movies, right? And they're both okay. They're both good to great.
I'd say the first one is much more of a classic. Second one, let me put it this way. You know how you can tell that the first Airplane's more of a classic? Because you could probably put the entire film together with how many times Seth MacFarlane has parodied that movie. Like, seriously, every time that Seth MacFarlane has made a joke from Airplane, you could probably cut that out and just make the entire movie Airplane out of all of the times he has ripped it off.
That's probably true.
Dominic Griffin of the Armchair Auteur. The
Oh,
Armchair
God.
Auteur, Robert Winfree.
Okay,
How pretentious can you be?
and how much more stimulation does Mark need that he can stop doing these accents?
Pray I get another coughing fit. I dare you. It's a big budget.
Please, God, I could use a hand here.
Like, I'm not going to say it. I'm too kind.
It's a big budget modern animation reboot of the beloved franchise. But the immortal question, is it any good? Is it on par with the great tradition of Scooby flicks? And would anyone
There is no great tradition of Scooby Flex, you jackass.
and would anyone care about it if it actually did make it to the big screen?
There's a couple of the direct-to-DVD Scooby flicks that I would actually say are maybe not good, but worth seeing at least once, like Scooby Doo on Zombie Island. The theatrical release Scooby movies before this need to be buried in... Okay, correction. There was only one good thing that ever came out of the live-action Scooby Doo movies.
Thanks, God.
For God's sake!
Look, I got my brief coughing fit. I'm going to give props.
From Utah, aren't you supposed to go sacrifice a goat for that?
No.
Pete Hammond of Deadline Hollywood Daily. It's like a frenetic and very busy Avengers for Hanna-Barbera's
not.
all-star
No.
class
Really
characters.
Not
But
even
Scooby-
close.
God damn it. It's like a frenetic and very busy Avengers for Hanna-Barbera's all-star classic characters. But Scooby fans will be happy, Alexis Hejna.
Nice for this guy to appoint himself the spokesperson for all of the fandom.
Yeah.
The fact, like I said, this movie is made for one group of people and one group of people only. The diehard animation nuts.
Shannon,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure even big Scooby fans will be relatively nonplussed.
All right. I think this is going to be the last one. Shannon McGrew of Nightmare's Conjurings. Ooh. Not like the armchair auteur. Nightmare's Conjurings. Where are they getting these fucking people from? Like, I haven't seen a whole lot of, like, our normal, like, group here. Not a lot of top critics here.
Because to our vaunted top critics, if it does not receive a theatrical release, well then, my good sir, it does not qualify for my attentions.
I think it's more like the quote-unquote top critics have realized that because they can't actually go to the theaters, that they can know that they actually need a real fucking job now. Top critics are probably all working at the McDonald's drive-thru at this point because they've come to the conclusion they have no other skills.
No, they all moved to Ohio because apparently anybody there can collect unemployment.
That is true. However, if anyone in fact knows of the fast food establishment currently paying the bills for Leonard Maltin or Old Man Morgenstern, please tell me so I can find them and exact my much overdue vengeance on them.
Shannon McGrew of Nightmare's Conjurings. Whatever the fuck that is. Thank you, Muttley. Scoob offers fans a film.
Muttley laugh.
Scoob offers fans a film with vibrant imagery, a few spooky moments, and some much needed entertainment for folks stuck in quarantine. Let me tell you, I've skipped a lot of these, but the reference to being stuck at home was a lot of these reviews. It may not have been my cup of tea, but it was nice to see the whole Scooby gang back together again.
I can't argue with that last line. That's pretty accurate.
That's actually fairly accurate. Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a Scooby release. Again, not a huge amount of time, but it's been a minute.
I got to read this last one.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, if part of your review is, boy, I'm just so glad to be doing something again, shut up.
So
that's not relevant. Shut up.
So this is actually a rotten review, but it needs to be read out loud for the world to hear.
That does make me question whether or not it actually needs to be read out loud for the world to hear. Or if it should just be left to die horribly and alone.
John Sherber of Decider.
Not a good start.
Bottom line, I laughed twice, maybe 3 times. Scooby Dooby don't.
Wow. You proud of that one?
Okay, first of all, you have no right to call yourself a critic if you're actually pulling out that reference. Because, yeah, everyone has made a Scooby Doo don't the joke in their life. And it's pathetic.
Yeah, that is unbelievably pathetic. And don't get me wrong, I laughed maybe twice.
Nope.
But I can at least acknowledge that the humor, such as it is aimed at someone completely not me. So,
okay, I gotta read
I'm
these.
going to say that because I don't laugh at children's humor, therefore it doesn't count.
I was going to say there were a decent amount of fairly funny moments. Again, I'll agree with you guys that the Ruth Bader Ginsburg Slither was probably the funniest. But there were a handful of moments where, yeah, I laughed. Maybe not full belly, oh my god, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen, but still, okay, that was funny.
I'm going to read these next couple just in a row, and then we're done. This is what I'm going out with a bang. 4 in a row. And we're going to end with a top critic. So this is in order. Johnny Gaze, this is a medley. Johnny Gaze-Monic, Robert's favorite critic.
I hate that guy.
Of Fanboys of the Universe. Daniel Solzman of Sulzy at the Movies. Jesse Hasinger of Polygon. And one of our favorites on this show, Katie Walsh, top critic of the Tribune News Service.
You wound me, Mark.
All right. So Johnny Gaze-Monic. Does it have any nutritional value? Not a bit. Are there way too many ingredients? Oh, hell yes. But is it delicious and make you feel awesome? Damn right it does. Invite me to parties. Daniel Solzman.
Too many ingredients. I actually thought the addition of all the characters was kind of what saved this movie.
Hang on, if I might respond to Mr. Gazmotic in brief.
First of all, shoot yourself for that last name.
Yes. Second of all, I'm sorry, sir. Your metaphor is unbelievably stretched. Like all too much pastry dough.
Very good. That's all what you did there. Scoob is just an entertaining enough of a film with an appeal to the Scooby Doo fan base. It's good to know that he speaks for all of them.
Yeah. There's again, like, my issue with that is not that it's inaccurate necessarily, but there's a much better way to phrase it than how you did, you pontificating blowhard.
I'm just getting tired of everyone saying about how this is aimed at the Scooby Doo fan base, just because if you like Scooby Doo, apparently you are of a lower stature of a human being.
Yeah, that's pretty typical.
I mean, look, the only thing that's true of is Transformers fans.
Shut up.
By the way, Mark, I just found out that they released a comic book in 2016. It's called Wacky Raceland.
Yeah, we covered it on source material.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Oh, okay, because I just bought it. It's like if you haven't covered it yet, then please tell me because we need to.
Yeah, Jesse and I struggled through that book. But please read it and tell me what you think.
Gladly. Ordered, I think, the last copy on Amazon.
And Jesse Hassinger of Polygon. Scoob isn't nearly as good as Mystery Incorporated, which evinces a genuine horror influence while still working as a kid's show. But it feels comfortable with itself. Okay. And
how does that actually, like, that barely it feels comfortable with what it is. Like, okay, the feeling of the movie is really secondary to, all the stuff you're supposed to be talking about as a critic.
Not to mention, you really can't compare a one-off movie like this to a previous version on the TV show. It's just not going to work. And yeah, Mystery Incorporated was a very, very different version that, I'll admit, actually did try to up the horror quota a little bit, but you really can't compare the two.
All right. Last one. Katie Walsh, one of our favorites.
Ugh.
The other Hanna-Barbera characters that never quite achieve the cultural ubiquity of Scooby-Doo makes for a fun, universe-expanding tale, avoiding the cliches and story ruts that might otherwise befall yet another version of the Scooby-Doo story.
I think there's some truth there. I mean, Look, of all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons and properties, I mean, it's Scooby, right? That's the one. There's not even really a second that's that close. You have others that certainly achieved a degree of fame. Johnny Quest. What's the other one? Because there's another one that is fairly well known. I mean, okay, the Flintstones, maybe the Jetsons, if they qualify. But Scooby was far and away, bar none, the runaway success of that entire studio, for whatever reason.
Technically, actually, if you want to argue, the Flintstones was the real success. That was the first primetime animated special.
Okay.
So this one,
I would argue Scooby had more endured longer, but yeah, sure. As far as which one maybe made a more immediate impact, yeah, the Flintstones was the Flintstones and the Jetsons both were cultural icons for the time.
I'll give you that. The Flintstones was more of the ground shaker that laid the way for animation. But considering how Scooby-Doo has lasted for as long as it has, it really does say something for just how iconic it has become.
So I really try to find one that's going to send Robert into apoplexy. And
he does.
Oh, I know. Why do you think I've got the foxhole to grab with the corgi?
Well, get in it. Get in the foxhole. Because I found it.
Hey!
Duck and cover, everybody, because Robert's about to unzip his pants and give it to Grace.
Why do you have to make? Hold on. Why do you have to make it weird? Look, this whole segment is bizarre enough to begin with. Why do you have to make it weirder?
All right, Robert Winfree is about to unzip his pants and do the good time dance. Here it is. Ready to give it to you, Grace Randolph from Beyond the Trailer. You ready, Robert? You ready, Robert Doobie-Doo?
I actually like her stuff most of the time.
Well, you're going to love this. Talk about a Scooby snack. This movie is a real treat. Incredible animation. A celebration of Hanna-Barbera. Plus, top-notch work from the voice cast and the animation team.
Not even
Wow,
close.
somebody wanted to get on the DVD box.
Someone's playing real nice with the powers that be here on this one.
Hang on, I missed a part of this. Let me read that again. Talk about a Scooby snack. This movie is a real treat. Incredible animation, a celebration of Hanna-Barbera, plus top-notch work from the voice cast and the animation team, and I can see Russia from my house. You can go now.
I don't know why you... Yeah, I was curious about your accent choice there, because that's not really what that woman sounds like.
I don't care what she sounds like.
Obviously. Again, look, I'm... As a celebration of Hanna-Barbera, 100% that... If there's anything you can say positively about this movie, it's that it is a love letter to that group of animators and what they produced. 100%. The voice acting is all... Take Jason... If you remove Jason Isaacs, Frank Welker, and Billy West, who all do... Billy West is there briefly as Muttley. Those guys all do fine. Not memorable, not great, fine. Again, Isaacs does the best, but
Actually,
it's...
I meant to ask you earlier, do you think we should have... Again, Zac Efron, Amanda Seyfried, and Genesis Rodriguez are horribly wasted, I think, as Fred, Velma, and Daphne. But do you think this would have been better if they had actually brought back Matthew Lillard as Shaggy?
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah, because that's what I was trying to say earlier. That was the one good thing the live-action films did, was that Matthew Lillard was brought on to replace Casey Kasem after he had retired and take on the role of Shaggy, and frankly, he kicks ass at it.
Yeah, it's something of a shame that Matthew Lillard's Shaggy is wasted on that movie, because he is better than that whole movie. His performance as Shaggy is better than everything else in that movie, bar none.
All right,
no
folks.
argument.
Well, that wraps up a 2-hour review of Scoob, which was an hour and 55 minutes longer than it needed to be. But we like talking to each other, or yelling at one another, or telling one of us to go smoke pot. It's all fine. So it was good to get the gang, minus the guy who fucking asked to do this.
Jason, you're on thin ice.
No, in all seriousness, we don't get to do many of these right now, so it was fun to do, and I was glad to do it. And we're going to do it again, believe it or not. We're going to do another movie that I fucking didn't want to do, and wasn't planning on doing, but hey, Disney Plus. So, Monday, a special Monday edition of Damn You Hollywood, we will be doing Artemis Fowl.
When is this?
June 15th.
June 15th. I want to make sure I had the date correct.
Yes. Comes out on Disney Plus June 12th.
Okay. June 15th, we will do another wasted performance by Colin Farrell.
Yes.
I need to find somebody in my immediate circle who's actually read Artemis Fowl so I can get a little more info on it for the show.
There you go.
If it's only an adaptation of one of the books, I might just power read it because I can do that.
But if you're wondering when we're actually going to...
books, I would say even if it is just one of the books, they're going to sprinkle it with Easter eggs from the other books and building up possible sequels and future adaptations. So
yeah, I'm trying to remember what was the movie we did here that I read the book for.
If you're wondering when we're going to do...
I've done that a few times.
The next actual theatrical release. It's not going to be the end of July, theoretically. And so... The next one will be a Wednesday edition of the show. It'll be July 22nd. We'll be doing Christopher Nolan's Tenet. And then the gang will get back together again.
Can't wait. I genuinely am very excited for that movie. I love Nolan's work.
On July 28th, where we'll be finally getting to the now delayed Mulan. So that's what's next in the near future, theoretically. for Damn
Which
You
Mark
Hollywood.
Are you gonna pay up on that failed bet when it doesn't make $1 billion?
No.
As always, folks, remember, we're currently just waiting to see how things go with the states reopening. The schedule is subject to change.
Yesterday,
I think mine's gone from orange to yellow, I think, over the course of this month. So
Yesterday, myself and Alexis Hejna reviewed the final season of She-Ra, entitled Hot Lesbian Action. Everyone should check it out.
you just had to brush off that old Bischoff chestnut, didn't you?
Indeedy.
The climactic series finale hinges on Adora and Catra kissing, Robert.
Hot lesbian action.
Well, hold on.
Show.
Stop. Seriously?
Yeah,
Which
seriously. Yeah.
God.
Catra
I thought it was dumb enough when the climax of Voltron wound up being, well, hey, we can actually reach this emotionally traumatized and disturbed person and reset multiple reality. Like, I thought that was stupid. I'm sorry, if your entire climax is, oh boy, I really am a lesbian, just take your property out and shoot it in the head.
Just don't tell unless you want him to actually have a massive embolism.
I don't think Pat cares enough about about She-Ra to even get worked up over something that stupid.
This Thursday, speaking of Pat, myself and him will be reviewing the second season of Dark Side of the Ring, which airs its finale, as we're recording this, as a matter of fact, on the late, great Owen Hart. Next week, Alexis Hejna is back again. We got a live source material. The Three Caballeros Ride Again. Myself and Christopher Bailey will be reviewing AEW Double or Nothing. And then
It's a lot of nothing.
And then Alexis Hejna is back for her last show for the month of May. We'll be doing a TV party for the Disney Plus series Legend of the Three Caballeros. Alexis
Put your money
Hejna.
down now. Put your money down now, folks, for how quickly it takes for Mark to burst into song on that one.
Not long.
Can I take the over-under at 5 seconds? He's not even going to get through his intro. His intro will be them singing.
Mark, do you actually know the song?
We are the three amigos. Wait, no.
He will figure it out, or he will just do the Three Amigos.
Oh, sorry, but I knew you were going to start singing the wrong song.
Foley, 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 Foley. All right. Alexis Hejna.
Oh, you guys live on set right now, don't you? Kick the Amigos out. Oh, yeah? You want to try and strong-arm me, do you? Aren't those our clothes? Yeah, take the Amigos' clothes.
Oh, God, we tapped into something, folks.
That is, you know what, that might be, this is one of those weird things, but that is one of my all-time favorite Joe Mantegna performances. He's on screen for all of, like, those 5 minutes, but it's so good.
Could it be that once again you are angry and taking it out on poor Hefe? It's a sweater! All right. For God's sake, sell something. You jewelry maker, you.
Oh,
Do not force the flower to open. You wait for it to reveal itself to you. When will that be? Tonight, or I will kill her.
you know what? I quit. I'm sorry. To top it off, I actually have seen Blazing Saddles too many times, so every time I tried to think of a Three Amigos quarter, I said, shit, no, that's from the wrong cowboy movie.
Hang on while I whip this out.
Oh, that's always a classic. Excuse me while I whip this out.
He said the sheriff is near.
Oh, you could never make that movie today, and it's a crying shame.
A black sheriff? Well, of course, this ain't... Sorry, it worked in Blazing Saddles.
If it isn't obvious, folks, it has been a while since the three of us have gotten together for a show, and we clearly needed this.
The Three Caballeros, no matter where he goes, we're one,
No,
two,
one,
and three,
two,
four.
and three goes, we're always together.
Ah! In better stormy weather. I hope I'm offending a lot of Latinos doing this.
You offend everyone just by breathing, Mark.
No, it's coughing, not breathing. Could you please, for the fourth time, sell jewelry or I'm going to Robert?
Behind Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We're still playing it by ear on whether or not we're going to be making an appearance at any conventions here in the near future. The only one we have that is still a go is Cape Comic-Con in Cape Girardeau. So just keep listening to us through our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. We will be keeping you updated. In the meantime, our Etsy and Handmade and Amazon stores are still open and fully restocked. So be sure to check out some of our awesome chic geek jewelry. Honeysuckle Rose Creations.
You have like one podcast and one show. Make this a snappy plug. Go.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I already
All right.
plugged. You plug.
All right. This last Sunday on the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast,
Too long, sum it up.
Jeff Harris finally rejoined the show, which was it was fun. I mean, look, my feigned reticence aside, I have missed talking with Jeff. I like talking with Jeff. We unpacked the weekend, the two UFC events that took place over the week: Anthony Smith versus Glover Teixeira, and the terrible refereeing job / cornering job
Is Anthony
done
Smith
in the main event of that.
Is Anthony Smith still dead?
No, he's now saying his cornermen are under strict orders to never actually stop one of his fights. It's either the ref or the doc.
Yeah, okay.
Which is in direct contravention of what their job title actually is. He apparently didn't actually care for the statement that Jason Herzog put out anyway when he said, yeah, the buck stops with me, my bad, I'll learn from this and go forward. He's saying everything that you expect from us. If you were to stereotypically script up how an MMA fighter responds to a bad non-stoppage, he hit all the notes.
Good.
We also talked about UFC on ESPN 8 when Alistair Overeem and the sport of MMA gave just no Fs about the emotional story that ESPN was trying to tell and their exploitation of the tragedy involving Walt Harris and his family. We went through all of that event. We did not have anything to preview because there is no event this coming Saturday. There is one now scheduled for the 30th. That does not have a venue yet because the UFC is not sure whether or not the state of Nevada will be open for business. If they are, they will be going through their own venue, the Apex Center that they own, which is a small venue, but again, it's totally owned by the UFC. Or they will be heading somewhere in the great state of Arizona, apparently. So we'll have a full preview of that event if it comes to fruition in a couple of weeks this coming Sunday. On a slightly more somber note, I participated in the written portion of the tribute to the recently and somewhat shockingly deceased Larry Zonka in the Wrestling Zone of 411 Mania. We're all still kind of trying to wrap our heads around what happened, how to make sense of it, because I woke up Monday morning. I stayed up very late Sunday. I woke up Monday around 3 p.m. my time and came up to the news that Larry had passed. And, yeah, that's rough. He was a prolific writer, a wonderful husband and father, a steady leader, a good guy to joke around with. I didn't know him nearly as well as other people. So if you've ever been interested in professional wrestling, if you've ever read anything he's written, I believe his family at this point does have a GoFundMe set up. If you're in a position to give and you can, please do so. If you're not, at least share the news around. Again, Larry had been writing professional wrestling reviews and coverage and whatnot for 20 years.
If I could interject, I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to do this elsewhere, but the two things that I remember about Larry that I will always hold close to my heart was, one, after my divorce from my first wife back in 2007, I was in a really, really bad place emotionally, and just like the sight of like a wedding or something, happy relationships, I would just burst into tears. I was probably one of the worst depressions, but before I met my wife, my current wife, one of the small fires that I kind of huddled near that gave me some degree of light and warmth in that time was the podcast that Larry used to do with his wife. Their kid was their eldest kid was probably like 8 or 9 years old, I think, at the time. He's 18 now. And I remember, like, Larry's wife knew fuck all about wrestling, but who cares? They had such fun husband and wife jostling chemistry together, and it was fun to hear them talk and get along and jostle each other, and it, for whatever the reasons were, whatever my state of mind was at the time, it made me happy. I was happy for them, and it's one of my lasting memories of the guy. The other were his television reports from around the time of the Reign of Terror. Because they would all end the same way, with Triple H, and I remember that time specifically because Triple H beat everybody, and Larry's not like me. I mean, Larry has a very funny sense of humor, and all the credit in the world to it, but his sense of humor was a little less bombastic and a lot more subtle than mine tends to be. And Larry would do this thing at the end of his columns or television reports where Triple H would win the match, and he would say, okay, Triple H wins, blah, 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 after 20 minutes or whatever, and then he would put up just a picture of berries.
Yep. I remember
no matter
those.
how many times he did it, it cracked me up. Between that and Dancing Brock, I would laugh. I don't know why, but every time I read his television reviews, I would laugh my ass off each and every time, like Dory. Like I had forgotten it from the first time. But always the picture of berries and always Dancing Brock would crack me up. So, rest in peace, brother.
So again, to anyone in a position to give, there is a GoFundMe for them set up. It is linked on 411 Mania in the Wrestling Zone. Make sure you tell the people around you how you feel about them, because time is our only...
Or lie and tell them you like them.
That too. Time is our only truly finite commodity. Everything else is replaceable. So, thank you. To that is to say, we do thank you guys for spending some of your precious time with us. It is equal parts baffling, humbling, motivating, and I could throw other adjectives, but those are the ones I choose. We do thank you guys for all of your support. Please, while you're out there, continue to stay safe. I always, for the last a couple of years, I think I've been closing my stuff with stay safe out there even before the pandemic. Now it's there, so even more importantly, please, everyone, stay safe, and please continue to be well, be safe, and behave. We will see you next time.